The assignment is to create a game in App Lab, and the game is going to record how many times you click a button. All right, it's a simple game, but the whole idea is I want you to understand variables and get to work with variables a little bit. So the variable is going to be the score. Now, if you certainly should remember that also from freshman year computer class when we did score in Scratch, and that was always a variable. So same thing here. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to design the app first. So we're going to go to switch to design, and we're going to put a button on the screen. Now, I'm not going to make this pretty at all. I'm going to let you guys make it pretty on your own, but I'm going to just make this a little bigger. And you can move it around or center it, change the colors, change the fonts, whatever. Because this is button we're going to be using in coding, you're going to want to put the ID so you really know what button it is. I'm going to call it the click me button. Once again, I'm going to start with a lowercase, and then the second word will have an uppercase. And that's the ID so that you can figure out what you need to use for the when you actually go to code it. All right, the text is what's actually on it. So I'm going to also put click me here. All right, so click me, this can be a space because this is just the text that's here. The ID can't have any spaces in it. You can change any of these properties to make it look wonderful if you like. All right, so under that, I'm going to put the instructions, which can be a label, could be a text area. Well, I'm going to use label. So just bring the label down here, and since I'm not going to be coding with it, it's just instructions. I'm going to leave it to just say label 1 because it doesn't really matter. I don't need to find it later. But here I'm going to say you have 10 seconds to click the button as many times as you can. Okay, so once again, I'm going to leave it up to you to make that look pretty, center it, color it, make it big, whatever you want to do as far as that goes. All right, so that's the first screen. Now we're going to need a second screen that's going to give you the score. All right, so let's now take a second screen and just drag it on there. It gives you a second screen. And on this screen, we're going to have more information. So we're going to use a label. Once again, I'm not going to need the label to code, so I'm not going to change the ID. But I am going to say your score is. Okay, once again, you can make this huge because why not? Make it pretty, anything you like. And then we're going to put another label down here. And this is actually where the score is going to appear. And because this is going to be, I'm going to need this in the code, I'm going to change the ID and I want to call it score label. Okay, so I know that's where the score is going to appear. And there's no text in it at all because we're going to put that in the code, so you can take that out. Actually, you could just write in score so you can see where it is. That's going to go away. Anyway, you'll see that. All right, so that's the whole thing with both screens. So we're going to go back to screen 1, and now we're going to code this. All right, so the object of the game is just to click the button as many times as you can, and then when it gets to 10 seconds, it's going to switch the screen and tell you how many times you clicked it. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we have to create the variable for the score because that's the most important part of this. So we're going to go under variables, and these three up here, this is how you declare the variable and give it and assign it a value. This is if you're just naming the variable and you don't need to give it a value. And this would be where we're going to where we increment, and you'll see we'll use this one too. All right, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to declare the variable. We're going to call the variable score, so all lowercase score, and we're going to set its initial value to 0 because when you start the game, the score is at 0. Okay, so we have now initialized the variable. Okay, so the first thing that we want to do is we want to go into user interface controls. So that's up here. So under user interface controls, you grab the event because this is your user interface. And what we're going to do is say when the button is clicked, so when the click me button's clicked, when you pull that down, once again, you can call it anything you want. I called it a click me button. So when the click me button is clicked, what we want to do is we want to increase the score. So let's go back to variables. So in that case, we're going to use this button. We're going to assign a value to a previously declared variable, right? It was declared up here. We're going to assign a new value. So we have to make sure that it's the right variable. So we type in score. It's already been declared. You're good. So the value, and this is, you're going to see this so many times, is going to, we're going to take whatever the value of score is, we're going to add 1 to it. So right now it's 0, but that's okay. So we're going to type in here score plus 1, the number 1. So this is going to take whatever score is in here and add 1 to it. So each time, it doesn't work like Scratch because we don't have to put a forever loop or any kind of loop here, because it's an event, and in an app that's a little different. So the event is anytime the click me button is clicked, it's going to bump the score up by 1. All right, so we're going to keep doing that. And then what we need to do is give it a time limit, because we only want it to work for 10 seconds. So this is something we hadn't talked about and something you might want to use later. But if you go under, I think it's under control. Yep, under control, you're going to do get time out. All right, so, or set timeout. So we're going to set the time out function. Now, this is in milliseconds, so this would be 1 second. We want it to be 10 seconds, so we're going to add an extra 0 in here. Wait, can I do that? Yeah, add an extra 0. Hello? Why is this not letting me do this? Okay, now there's an extra 0 in there. All right, so that should be 10 seconds. So after 10 seconds, what do we want to happen? Well, we want to flip it to the other screen. So that is under, I think under UI controls, maybe towards the bottom, set screen. Okay, so here we go. So when this time gets to 10 seconds, we want to set the screen to screen 2. All right, so we're going to flip it to screen 2. All right, so I'm going to show you, so let's go to screen 2. The other thing we're going to do as soon as that happens is we want to change the text in this label. So we're going to go to set text. Get means you're going to find out what's already there. Set means you're going to make it something new. So you'll see that in a lot of places here. All right, so we are going to set the text, and it's going to be in the score label. Set the text in the score label to whatever is in score. Now here's a really important thing, and we'll learn more about this later. But if you've got quotes around something, that's called a string, and that's text. So if we left it just like this, what would happen is that it would just print the word text. If we change this and we just change this to score, because there's parentheses, it thinks you want to write the word score there. That's not what we want. So we want to make sure that we get rid of the little the little quote marks there, and we're going to just type in, did I say parentheses? I meant quote marks. If it's got quote marks around it, it's a string. Well, we took those out, and now it's going to just assume that it's the variable score. All right, so that should be all the programming you need for this. Once again, this declares the variable. This tells you to increase the score variable by 1 every time the button's clicked on that first screen. And then as soon as you get to 10 seconds, it should flip to the second screen, and you should be able to see how many times you clicked. So let's try this. Here we go. I'm going to start clicking. I'm not clicking a million times. I'm just going to click. And after 10 seconds, it should flip and tell me how many times I clicked. Here it is. I clicked 17 times. I bet you guys can do better. Okay, it's a simple little game, but really I wanted to get this point across on the variable and this incrementing a variable, which is really important. You may have remembered it from freshman year, but this is how you do it in App Lab. If you have any questions or problems with this, let me know. Now, you don't